turning up the diplomacy.
Hamas, working with Iran, has been plotting and planning for months, if not over a year,
as the U.S. hopes to halt fighting in Gaza. Thousands of miles away, a march for unity. And the NFL's first game in Germany coming down to its last play. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Valentina Gaspari.
And I'm Anthony Cruz. Today is Monday, November 6, 2023.
Live from the Lee Caplin School of Journalism and Media in North Miami, this is Caplin News.
Push for a pause. U.S. diplomats want a humanitarian break to the fighting in Gaza. Some Arab leaders are calling for a full-scale ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
But as CNN's John Lawrence reports, the U.S. is advocating for a shorter humanitarian pause to allow aid to enter the ravaged areas.
The Israeli attacks on Gaza have claimed more than 9,700 lives over the past few weeks, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health.
We turned on the torch, and my siblings were alive, but I did not find my father. I finally found him next to me. I moved him. I moved his hands. I moved his face. He did not respond.
The war between Israel and Hamas started last month after a Hamas attack killed around 1,400 Israelis.
Hamas needs to be eliminated. Hamas, working with Iran, has been plotting and planning for months, if not over a year, to invade Israel, and Israel has a right to defend themselves.
On Sunday, the Israeli military said its soldiers have made it to locations along the Gaza coast in line with the expansion of its ground operations.
We're working very hard to make sure that the conflict in Gaza does not escalate, does not spread to other places.
During a whirlwind diplomacy trip in the Mideast, Secretary of State Antony Blinken made an unannounced visit to Iraq Sunday where he refused to support a ceasefire, instead opting for a, quote, humanitarian pause, even though calls for a truce are increasing.
Some who are against a ceasefire argue that it will help Hamas. However, I feel that in that argument, they are inherently dismissing the death, in fact, even endorsing and justifying the death of thousands of civilians.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Amidst this long-standing conflict in the Middle East, a story of hope and unity emerges. Yesterday in downtown Miami, more than 100 people of all faiths, races, and cultures came together to promote peace despite their differences. The We Are United March was hosted by the interfaith organization Mosaic Miami to counter anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate speech and crimes. The Sunday event started at 3 p.m. and people marched from the Freedom to the Underline.
We did this last year. I think we did it last year in May. So we knew it was returning. So it's been a long time planning and putting it together.
Last year's march was a day after a racist mass shooting that killed 10 black shoppers in Buffalo, New York. This year's event had a band setup and event speakers. The organization hopes to help ease tension during a difficult time for the Jewish and Palestinian communities in South Florida.
A Gulf War veteran living on Fort Myers Beach says he is fighting mad this morning. As Justin Case from Wink News reports, she was turned away from an American Legion post because of her service dog.
Dee Pilkins fought for this country. She served during the Gulf War in the Army, and she now lives with PTSD and hearing loss.
My psychiatrist at the Bedford VA, she noticed a really big change in me without my dog. And so she suggested a service dog. And she helped me find America's vet dogs.
All leading to this dog, Beth, joining her life. Beth is a certified service dog from America's Vet Dogs.
She really calms me down. She keeps me very, very level. She helps me with my hearing. Yeah, I'm a completely different person now.
To say that Beth has given Dee a new leash on life is an understatement, but when a local organization serving veterans would not allow the service dog inside, Dee felt defeated.
And they said, well, you're welcome, but your dog's not. And if my dog's not welcome, she is my companion that helps me on a daily basis. And for them to do that, they've just denied me part of my rights under the ADA law.
The commander of American Legion Post 274 would not allow Beth inside. He told us the American Legion Post is a private club and does not have to abide by the Americans with Disabilities Act.
I just find it to be un-American almost.
That was Just in Case from Wink News reporting. The American Disabilities Act does allow for some limited exceptions for things like religious organizations and private clubs, but only if certain requirements are met. Dee Pilkins says she believes an organization serving Americans, especially those with disabilities, should make accommodations.
A water taxi captain reached fast on duty this past Thursday to stop a loose barge moving into Seattle's waterfront. The 300-foot barge started to drift along the waterfront. As King 5's Brady Wakayama reports, the captain said it will be a day he will never forget.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be delayed a little bit. It looks like we have to divert a barge from hitting the waterfront. And I believe from downstairs I heard somebody say cool.
A captain's tale of an unforgettable day out on the water.
Definitely see the David and Goliath aspect of it. A small aluminum passenger vessel going up against a giant steel barge and all those containers.
That's King County water taxi captain Dan Crable. He and his crew were traveling to Pier 50 from West Seattle around 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon when they noticed this 300-foot container barge drifting toward the Great Wheel in the Seattle Aquarium.
One of those "this isn't good" situations, and we're the only ones around to help to try to make it better.
Within moments, Captain Crable and his crew sprung to action.
It needed to be diverted away from the waterfront, and that I had access to the side of the flat side of the barge. I knew I could get up against it and start pushing on it without any major damage to the boat or putting anybody at serious risk.
This quick thinking eventually allowed them to push the barge north toward empty Pier 66, where tugs arrived, pinning the ship to the terminal until it could be retrieved. The water taxi was not damaged, and according to the owners of the barge, no injuries were reported, and only minor damage occurred.
I'm glad that we were able to be there at the right time and the right place. If it had happened at any different a time, we either wouldn't have been there soon enough, or we would have gone past it before it came loose, and it would have been an entirely different outcome.
He's grateful for how this story ended, as this humble captain returns back to work tomorrow.
Once that was over, it's kind of, well, I'm going to have to tell my wife about this, and she's making a bigger deal out of it than I am.
The Dolphins were overseas and trying to overcome being down by 21 at halftime.
That's still ahead, and so is the story.
DC is gathering to celebrate the Day of the Dead, although it is pretty lively here at Freedom Plaza.
More on why there's a little extra makeup at our DC bureau this morning. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right, because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign, not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
I help our fellows design their paths as creative entrepreneurs. My experiences serving startups, creative businesses, and cultural organizations, and my journey as a queer mixed immigrant with Haitian and Arabic roots, inform the co-creative environment we foster at Radcliffe. We leverage our collective diversity to encourage the building of lifelong personal learning networks and mindsets that stimulate continuous innovation.
DC is ready to move on to Christmas season after getting one last fall festival out of the way. It marked the Day of the Dead, a celebration from Mexico.
Caplin DC reporter Hawa Izel got way into it.
DC is gathering to celebrate the Day of the Dead, although it is pretty lively here in Freedom Plaza.
On Saturday, the streets of DC were filled with passion and culture, as not only did the largest Palestinian protest in the country take place, but also a celebration of the Mexican holiday Días de los Muertos, also known as the Day of the Dead.
Fundamentally, we're on the mall in solidarity with other justice movements, but we've been here for 5 years straight, and the main purpose is to bring Dia de los Muertos into an accessible holiday and also an accessible experience for all of the harms that are happening around the world.
Dia de los Muertos DC, an organization dedicated to producing events centered around the holiday, partnered with the Mayor's Office for Latino Affairs to present a benefit festival, with the sole purpose of raising funds to reunite children who have been separated at the border with their families, advocate for unaccompanied minors crossing the border, and providing support for children of marginalized communities abroad.
We're a nonprofit that fundraises for two nonprofits, the Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights, which is an organization that is based here in the U.S. They take care and they help and they guard the lives and integrity of all minors crossing the border.
With children alone making up almost half of the world's refugees in 2020, Ari says that if there's no one to take care of them, then there will be no one to tell our stories.
And also Rostros Sabios de Mi Corazón a Tu Corazón, that is an organization, a nonprofit in Mexico, and they take care of all marginalized communities that have been abandoned by the government.
The event featured a cross-cultural altar, calavera skull painting, live performances, and various well-being workshops.
Event organizers say they're working towards getting Días de los Muertos recognized as a national holiday in the near future. Reporting from Washington, D.C., I'm Hawa Izel.
The Dolphins taking on the Chiefs for the NFL's first ever game in Munich, Germany. Tyreek Hill gives up a fumble against his former team and it returns for a TD. After digging their way out of a 21-point halftime hold, the Dolphins have a chance to tie with 1 minute left in the game when Tua drops the snap from the center. Final score was Dolphins 14, Chiefs 21, and the Fins are now 6-3. You're watching Newsbreak, and we're coming right back.
Severe weather can strike anytime, anywhere, but there's a simple way to stay safe. Hey, Jim Cantore here. I stay safe in dangerous weather by planning ahead. You can stay safe too with a few easy steps. Build an inexpensive kit with supplies for your family's needs. Write down important information like phone numbers and medications. Always talk with your family and remember any pets in your planning. Be ready, be safe. Start your plan today at ready.gov/plan.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's what white people think. You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive,
ZWX.
You're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Anthony Cruz.
I'm Valentina Gaspari. Get more news anytime at caplinnews.fiu.edu.